If you are a queer person who has even glanced at the 2018 series Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, it's likely that one thought immediately crossed your mind. Leo seems gay. A lot of queer headcanons for this show, as well as for most cartoons that were adopted by chronically online young adults, are simply projection. People connecting the characters to their own experiences and identity because of a sense of kinship, and that is not a bad thing. However, unlike non-binary Donnie or Arrow Ace Mikey, gay Leo seems to be an almost universally accepted idea. So much so that the most popular ship in the entire show is a crossover in order to give Leo an appropriately aged male love interest. But why? Even queer people in the fandom dance around the issue because saying that Ben Schwartz's voice performance sounds gay or limp wrist feels uncomfortable to use as proof of gayness in this era of representation and queer acceptance. We all know that nothing can technically prove a character gay except them saying it, but in Leo's case, the fucking vibes! The truth is that Leo is queer-coded through the language of recognizable symbols surrounding what it means to be gay. We've almost universally reviled these types of portrayals as stereotypical, with queer-coding itself being considered kind of a dirty word, yet there's seemingly nothing negative about Leo's portrayal. How can the space between positive and negative gay representation even exist? A character who is definitely gay, yet you can't be sure how or why. Schrodinger's gay person. In this video, I'm going to outline two main perspectives on queer representation in media and explore a couple of examples of them being employed, with my spicy takes sprinkled in, of course. And then I'll come back to Rise at the end, since really there isn't a lot to say about Leo's queer coding in particular. He's more so the vehicle I'm using to talk about the larger issue, since I've never seen a character like him in fiction, while also praising Rise. With all that said,
Death! Die!
Disney villains are the most iconic pillars of classic queer coding, both in animation and even cinema as a whole, so I'll try to make this brief with further resources in the description. After the implementation of the Hays Code, a set of rules forbidding filmmakers from portraying many scandalous concepts in the positive light, including queerness, films saw the rise of villains associated with many queer attributes. Think effeminate men, masculine women, etc. And Disney was the champion of these portrayals, from Jafar's winged eyeliner to Scar's limp paw to Maleficent's high cheekbones. If you knew, you knew. What was supposed to be disparaging towards queer people, associating us with downright evil, though, ultimately became cultural pillars of our experience for many people. These characters were deliciously evil, campy, and unabashedly themselves. What's a more positive queer message than that? Additionally, these characters may not have been as hateful as it seems on the surface, as many of them took inspiration directly from gay culture, or were even written or animated by gays for gays. Ursula is famously directly inspired from the iconic Queen Divine, and the most noteworthy animator behind many of the Renaissance-era villains is Andreas Deja, a gay man. Despite the complicated nature of queer coding, as demonstrated by the most famous example, there are basically two camps one can fall into. Queer coding is awful because it boils queerness down to stereotypical symbols rather than a diverse experience, and queer coding is good because it utilizes queer culture to create interesting characters. The former perspective is often influenced by respectability politics, the concept of trying to keep queerness as relatable to straight people as possible for our safety and protection in the government. Think like gay marriage and gay men who really have a bone to pick with drag queens. The progression of LGBT+ rights has ultimately paved the way for very standard mainstream media starring LGBT+ characters, where they just so happen to be gay. Works of art like Heartstopper.
Hi.
Does this show need an introduction? It really doesn't. It's just like teen romance, make it gay. Alice Oseman's Heartstopper features fucking normies! The closest to tropes that this series features is the gay panic meme of Tumblr-era gays. Of course, with a show about teenagers discovering their identities, it makes sense that there's no sign of queer community or cultural hallmarks anywhere, though it'd be really funny if Charlie was obsessed with John Waters films, like he just fucking loved John Waters. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with this approach. The show is lovely comfort food, and I think there is a real place for the concept. Gay people can be very average, yes, we're not all too busy watching Drag Race to have lives. But it's so fucking basic. Ironically, in the quest to make these characters feel like more realized people than previous stereotypes of queer people, they don't feel like real people at all. They have no quirks or interesting dynamics. Charlie is a shy nerd. Nick is a kind jock. Elle is barely anything. I really don't remember anything about her that much. They all go to school and they fall in love and stuff. Ugh, boring! Tao is really the only exception to this, in my opinion, because his struggle with jealousy and insecurity in his friendships is something very interesting, but even that is cartoonishly played up. Heartstopper, both the Netflix show and the comic, was made to appeal to as broad an audience as possible. It's extremely sanitized, both of queer culture and tropes, and even normal straight teen drama stuff. The most scandalous the comic got was the implication through a joke that maybe Nick and Charlie wanted to have sex with each other. Eventually. I think what this show is trying to do is admirable, but it swings too far in the direction of respectability politics for me to feel like it's representing anyone at all. For an example that swings in the opposite direction, though.
Oh, hey, girl!
The 2020 adult animated comedy Q-Force was lauded on Twitter after a single trailer because of stereotypes surrounding predominantly gay men, even though the show was created by a queer crew and cast. People saw the crude humor as degrading and insulting to queer people, laughing at us rather than with us. While I understand having one's guard up with this style of comedy, in this case I think people really needed to give the show a chance. It is a sympathetic, silly play on the dynamics between queer people and our relationship to the world. And without spoilers, this show does actually explore institutional homophobia in its own absurd way. LGBT plus people as a community have a lot of in-jokes and dynamics, which is completely normal. It's just like how straight people have the fucking lazy jackass husband and begrudging wife joke that like all of Family Guy is based off of. If straight people can have that, why can't lesbians have the dog family joke or like joint checking accounts on the first date? Haha, funny. Like it's really simple stuff. It's just poking fun. I don't think it's like making fun of people. The show's never saying that all queer people act one way. It's just saying that gay people like Ariana Grande. And I'm saying this as a gay man who does not like Ariana Grande. I think a lot of the hate and disconnect with this show had a lot to do with a generational divide. And like, I get it. I didn't understand a lot of these jokes because they're for 30-year-old people who live in West Hollywood. It's an adult cartoon. Q-Force relishing in stereotypes and excess will definitely turn away some viewers, but it is a far more positive show than the internet portrayed it as. While on the topic of stereotypes used for positivity, I'd really like to mention Barney of Dead End Paranormal Park, who is a teen trans boy. Some transmasc Twitter users have felt pretty uncomfortable about Barney's blue hair. It was pink in the original comic. It's just always dyed, and people considered that stereotypical. Beyond the obvious that some transmasculine people, especially kids, do dye their hair, and there's no harm in representing a specific experience, this stereotype has roots. Body modifications like hair dye, tattoos, and piercings are widely utilized in the trans and gender-diverse community as a coping mechanism for dysphoria. The idea is that if you feel uncomfortable with your body, you can customize it. Considering that the creator, Hamish Steele, is a trans person, my guess is that he was trying to channel that experience. He wasn't just saying blue hair and pronouns. Also, you should all watch Dead End Paranormal Park. It got canceled. It's a cliffhanger ending, I'm pretty sure, but it's really good still, and it's fun. If you like Gravity Falls, you'll really like Dead End, and it's a good, lovely, beautiful time. Now that we have these two extreme uses of stereotypes, what about a piece of art with both extremes?
I'm just like you.
Love, Simon is a 2018 mainstream teen romance featuring a protagonist gay, Simon Spear. The movie is about Simon's struggle with sexuality, and a major part of his conflict is that he doesn't fit a typical gay mold. He feels alienated from the queer community since, really, he doesn't have a community to fall back on. Living in a town where being the gay kid is a new and edgy idea, Simon has relied on stereotypes as a representation for what being gay means, and yet he doesn't align with them. In addition to Simon, there's a gay side character named Ethan who inhabits a lot of flamboyant gay stereotypes. In a quick scene, after witnessing homophobic bullying of Ethan, Simon says, "I wish Ethan wouldn't make it so easy for them." This is a prime example of respectability politics, the idea being that if we seem less gay, less freakish, and align with heteronormative ideals, we'll be safe. And it's coming back later, Chekhov's microaggression. At a point when Simon is questioning what being out in college might look like for him, there's a silly montage highlighting as many gay stereotypes as possible, before he ends it saying that maybe he won't be that gay. Once again, Simon demonstrates his understanding of queerness through the language of stereotypes, music, fashion, rather than, having sex with men. Of course, these hallmarks have important cultural and historical contexts, but using them as the singular mold of the gay experience can only cause harm to, at least 50% of queer men. And you would think at a glance that that's what Love, Simon is saying. Look, we hired a normal straight guy to play a gay experience to show how normal being gay is, so long as the gay person mimics heterosexual ideals of masculinity as closely as possible. Aren't we progressive? But then this movie does something really interesting. After Simon is outed and he and Ethan are bullied over this, the two end up having a conversation. Simon asserts that he always thought Ethan had it easy due to being not only openly gay, but obviously gay. But Ethan outlines to him that fuck no. The two don't have much in common, but that doesn't mean Ethan has had it any easier or that homophobia isn't a problem for both of them. This is solidarity. Simon can relate to traditional masculinity, Ethan can wear his horribly fitting sweater vests and scarves. I fucking hate the costuming on him, come on, I know he slays harder than this. And both are gay men. This conversation is obviously missing a lot of political context, but it's still very impressive to see from a blockbuster film. Now that we have a full overview of queer coding in media, what can we learn from all these different interpretations of queer identity and experience in art?
Wow, you guys are handsome.
It's okay that Leo is stereotypically queer-coded. He's never put down or singled out for his flamboyance, for being more feminine than his brothers. He is a huge personality beyond these traits, having pretty much the only dynamic character arc in the movie. Can we talk about the movie, by the way? Holy shit. The negative use of stereotypes relates to connecting queer people to something that should be feared, othered, shunned. It's not the behavior itself that makes a negative representation. It's interesting. On my first watch, I never expected any casual homophobia in Rise like I usually would with flamboyant characters in cartoons. But not because I had faith in the writers and directors going in. It was because I didn't even register the difference for a while. I was just so enraptured with these characters and this world that it wasn't until I noticed the first Bowie reference that I even began to think, maybe the writers are doing something here. Which is fucking crazy. Leo is obviously different, but he's different in the way that every character in this show is different. There is no set standard for masculinity or expression or really anything in this show. And that's the beautiful thing about Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles as a whole. It takes the time to carefully represent a variety of experiences while not mocking the characters for displaying these traits or having these experiences. Even when they want to mine a character's baggage for comedy, there's still a lot of sympathy and dignity given to them. It's fucking heartwarming. Overall, upon examining Heartstopper's lack of stereotypes, Q-Force's abundance and focus on them, and the conversation Love, Simon presents about these two extremes, I have come to the conclusion that Leo is one of the most masterful examples of a subtle queer character I have ever seen. He is dripping with cultural queer symbols. This piece of his identity is never questioned or mocked by outside forces, and it is not presented as a problem in his life. Leo is gay because the writers put the thought into using stereotypes positively to casually convey an experience and identity. And that's really all there is to it. Hi, I hope you came away from this video with something positive. I hope I made you laugh. I hope I made you think. All of that. I've been trying to make this video since January. I'm not good at being a YouTuber. I hate the voice recording process, truthfully. And if you're seeing this video right now, then I can die happy knowing that I solved the mystery of the gay turtle. I want to do more video essays, even though they're hard, obviously, because they take a lot of thought and research and a lot of script writing, like more script writing than the average, review video. I write them so often anyway. I have 5 scripts in the oven right now. I just need the motivation to finish them and to sit down and record. And then the editing really is fun. I edit in stupors of 7 hours. I just hope I can make more video essays in the future. Does a video about the Blue Sky film Robots and Creationism sound funny or interesting to anyone? Let me know.
Only we're not going to run you out of town. We're going to kill you. Kill, kill, kill. Shoot, shoot, shoot.